by restoring and expanding programs that force local law enforcement to act as immigration agents regardless of the circumstances. These programs have been opposed nationally by law enforcement themselves and local and state governments as harmful for public safety. His speech yesterday has no appeal to Latino voters who will decide who is president, who appoints the next Supreme Court judge, and who sits in the U.S. Congress. And our political awakening is not limited to the presidential ticket. In Wisconsin, we hold our own Republican leadership, including Ron Johnson, Paul Ryan, and Scott Walker, accountable to supporting Trump and promoting similar policies. They have blocked deferred action for families and dreamers in Wisconsin. They voted against immigration reform, and their party has promoted state legislation that advances Trump's goals, such as blocking driver's licenses for immigrants, repealing tuition equity, and introducing legislation that would similarly promote racial profiling and undermine public safety by turning police into immigration agents. In Wisconsin, Voces de la Frontera Action has endorsed Senator Russ Feingold for the U.S. Senate seat and Hillary Clinton for the U.S. presidential ticket. And we are reaching out to tens of thousands of Latino voters throughout the state because we know that when we turn out on November 8th, we will defeat Trump and politicians down that ballot that rely on the scapegoating of immigrant workers for their failures of their own pro-corporate policies.
Every time Donald Trump speaks hatefully against immigrants, he is telling me that I am not good enough for this country simply because of where I was born, the color of my skin, and my own heritage. When Trump makes horribly offensive insults against Latinos or people not being able to do their jobs based on their Mexican heritage, he is attacking people like me, my family, and millions of others in this country who make up the Latino community. But he is also speaking against the vast majority of Americans who know we are far better than the racism and bigotry Trump has spewed this entire campaign season. And it's not just Trump. Wisconsin Republicans have been pushing for some of the policies Donald Trump now pushes. Ron Johnson and Paul Ryan blocked immigration reform and have voted to take away DACA and deport undocumented young people like me. I have worked since I was 15 and I am a recipient of DACA. This past May, I graduated with honors from one of the top universities in Milwaukee, Mount Mary University. I was not eligible to apply for financial aid, but I worked hard and had good grades that I was able to qualify for a private scholarship that covered my college expenses. Seeing my parents work day in and day out for my brothers and I really motivated me to further my education and help them as well as Milwaukee, the community that raised me. My father is a pastor and has raised me to uphold the best values and respect everybody's humanity. If our laws reflect these values, this country will be great. Donald Trump, Johnson, and Ryan don't see me as someone who can make America better, but simply a Latino who has to leave the country if we are going to make America great again. Well, I have a message for them. It is the working people of this country, people like my family and myself, that make America great. Hillary Clinton and I understand apparently what Trump and they do not. We are stronger together. If we really want to make our country great, we need to pass policies of inclusion and not division. Donald Trump doesn't realize he has awoken a sleeping giant. The millions of new voters who see the stakes in this election are higher than ever and cannot afford to stay in the sidelines. Hundreds of thousands of people with green cards are becoming citizens to vote against Trump. I am one of millions of people who might not have the proper documentation, but we are American, and Trump is motivating us. Even though many of our community's members cannot vote, we are helping to mobilize the vote. We are knocking on as many doors as we can, making as many calls as we can, and making sure that every friend, family who has the right to vote does so. The Latino vote will be crucial in defeating Donald Trump and the anti-immigrant Republican Party he leads. I know if we work together, we can defeat them and elect Hillary Clinton as our next president, Russ Feingold as our senator, and ensure we have more pro-immigrant, pro-working, family Democrats representing us at every level of government.
So we can take a few questions now. you all talk about the concerns of him getting into office, I think one of you alluded to it. Are you concerned about even just, even take the politics out, just the rhetoric? How concerning is that, just to hear this, and is it hurting folks in these communities? And some of the stuff could be perceived as emotionally damaging.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's, and there's actually a national tracking going on of increased incidents of racially motivated hate crimes that have come in the wake of this political campaign. And, you know, we've had reports of those kind of comments, wetbacks go home, between like kids at a soccer game, you know, in outlying areas. And so, I mean, it's definitely a kind of rhetoric that is emboldening people to act on that kind of racial hatred. I think it's a product of political redistricting, but it's really brought what is a very dangerous racist fringe into the mainstream of politics. And on November 8th, we all get a chance to vote, everybody, and that's where we can totally put in the trash bin of history that brand of politics.
Those concerns then would continue theoretically.
Yes, and you are so right, because even if Trump is defeated, I think there has been an emboldening of basically this right-wing fringe. And we also don't believe that in voting, like, our job is done, that it is a process of making sure that the platform that represents the demands of all the folks who are knocking on doors and phone banking, that we realize those goals, and that we challenge the kind of ideas that promote that kind of hatred between people and really debunk a lot of the myths that are being promoted out there. So you're absolutely right that the work is going to continue afterwards.
The situation you cited, outlying areas, you're talking about here where those slurs were at?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was that?
Was it like Beloit or New Berlin where there was a
Beloit.
soccer game?
Beloit,
I think Elkhorn was the other, Beloit and Elkhorn. Yeah, and they addressed it, and that's where the changes come, where they facilitated a local discussion with the parents and the families to say, like, why that's, you know, why we respect each other and don't do that. So, but it's kind of those local incidents that have, that kind of rhetoric that obviously reflects kind of how mainstream politics has impacted our families.
Anything else from anyone?
Yeah, Diane, can we make sure we get your last name? Is it Rondon?
Rondin. Do you want me to spell it out?
Please.
You want to stand at the...
Yeah, please.
My first name too, or just my last name?
Oh,
Both. Okay, so Nayeli, it's Nayeli, and then my last name is Rondin, Rondin.
When you're hearing some of the things that you're hearing from Donald Trump during his candidacy, tell me how it's impacted you, how it's affected you and your family to hear these.
I think the biggest impact has been knowing that he has such a huge following and knowing that these people actually believe what he says, you know, that Mexicans, they're not sending their best, they're sending rapists, murderers, and it's realizing that this is a sentiment that is increasing in our community, and knowing that, you know, I could be at work, my parents could be going to the grocery store and they don't speak English that well. So just knowing that because of that, there's this added concern for them and for their well-being because he's encouraging this hateful speech.
It's actual safety concerns, more concerned than you were a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen in the state legislature, I think with the emergence of Donald Trump as the leader of the Republican Party, we're seeing them really push forward more aggressively than ever. I think truly an anti-immigrant, anti-Latino agenda. Christine mentioned it in her remarks.
¿Cómo está manejando más bien su campaña Donald Trump? Al ir a México, después de que los insultó y todo, y ahora después regresar aquí y decir que quiere tener nuevas relaciones con México, pero como líder, ¿tú cómo piensas que él está manejando eso?
Bueno, la verdad es que fue a México para una visita con el presidente, pero después rápidamente empezó con una, ¿cómo se dice?, una mentira, ¿verdad? Porque dice que no hablaron sobre ¿cómo se dice?, el moro. Pero el presidente dice que no, empezó la junta con una declaración declaración que no vamos a pagar para una muro. So, la verdad es que él no tiene valor, no está diciendo, hablando con sinceridad. No sé si quieres
Una pregunta.
Sí.
¿Creen ustedes que a Donald Trump le favorezca, aumente su gente que lo sigue, como esto de ayer en México?
Que
O sea,
sí hay como...
si le benefició a Trump la visita de México ayer,
Bueno, lo que
en cuanto a
yo,
adeptos.
yo no creo, y la razón que estamos aquí es para mandar un claro mensaje que él prometió y se pensaba, él va a decir algo diferente o cambiar su postura para tratar de atraer el voto latino. Pero primero no teníamos ilusión de eso, pero segundo, reafirmó que su política es de
Anti-inmigrante.
autodeportación, implementación de leyes racistas, de política muy cruel. Y lo único que hizo ayer en su oración era detallar en una manera muy concreta cómo eso se iba a implementar, incluyendo quitando los programas de DACA, DAPA y tomando políticas donde convertiría a la policía a nivel nacional en agentes de inmigración para deportar a todos. Entonces, al contrario, para nosotros, invitamos a todos a venir a reunirse con nosotros cada martes ahí en Voces, donde vamos a tener voluntarios tocando puertas para Russ Feingold en el Senado y Hillary Clinton como candidata presidencial, para asegurar que esa política no se haga realidad. Y lo podemos hacer. El voto latino aquí en Wisconsin va a decidir quién será presidente, incluyendo otros estados claves. So, el voto latino va a hacer esa diferencia.
En el caso de la señora Hillary Clinton, ¿creen ustedes que aceptará la invitación del presidente mexicano?
Bueno, yo no sé de eso porque es su... pero
Su agenda,
creo
¿verdad?
que es vergonzoso que se hizo la invitación a Trump.
Claro.
Y creo que...
Bueno, se hizo los dos, pero
se hizo los dos,
se adelantó.
Yeah. A mí es vergonzoso que se hizo esa invitación porque alguien que ha insultado tanto al mexicano,
Claro.
a gente de herencia mexicana, que hubiera recibido tal invitación. Lo único es que aquí tenemos nuestra tarea y vamos a cumplir, pero todos tienen que poner su granito.
Pero la señora Clinton no se quedaría, al no ir, al no aceptar la invitación, se quedaría, porque no sé, yo lo veo ahora sí que comprometida a aceptar la invitación.
Like, will Hillary Clinton, do you think it looks bad that Hillary Clinton did not go to Mexico, and will she accept a trip to Mexico?
I'm sure that she would. We have our Clinton campaign staff here, but I mean, that's something we'd have to pose to Secretary Clinton, but do you have anything, Nate, that we could add?
No, you guys should.
Okay.
Okay.
But
I know that Hillary ustedes saben que ella hizo una promesa a la comunidad latina, a las comunidades migrantes, que en sus primeras 100 días ella va a luchar para la reforma migratoria. So, esa es una promesa tan importante en nuestra comunidad, porque sabemos que fuimos frustrados con el tiempo que duró para el presidente Obama, pero Hillary hizo una promesa. En sus primeros 100 días va a luchar para la reforma migratoria.
Y lo que ella también ha incluido en sus primeros 100 días es un compromiso de proteger acción diferida, que por ejemplo Nayeli es una de esas beneficiadas, y que ella va a también defender a DAPA para los padres y lo va a expandir. Eso es algo que no tiene que esperar para el Congreso, aunque creamos que puede ser una apertura, si sale, no si sale, pero cuando sale el voto latino fuerte, que va a crear una apertura política para una reforma, pero también para acción ejecutiva como presidente para proveer un alivio inmediato. Eso es algo muy importante.
Okay. Muchas gracias.
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 I can ask Nayeli. Can I talk to Nayeli after?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. Sounds good. All right.
And did you have